mentioned tennis. I would like to know the longevity of runners versus tennis players. And so I'm going to call it, let's go from recreational to competitive, and let's pick something in the middle of that so that you're not running competitions all the time and you're not traveling and playing lots of tennis competitions at age 60, because those both would tend to mean that there's more stress involved and that there's could be less recovery involved. So like if you need recovery after a 2 hour match on Saturday and you get to the finals and you don't have the time to recover because you're playing on Sunday, if you're 60 or 70, that might not be good for you, for your heart and the rest of your physiology. So somewhere in between recreational and competitive, a balanced place in between. I'm wondering if the neurology and the camaraderie of being in a tennis group where you may have 16, 20 people where you all know each other and you move around in that little tennis village, if that does anything to us over a
Oh,
50,
yeah.
60-year career, maybe running, if you're not in a running group and you're doing lots of running on your own, which is not always easy for some of us to run on our own. I'm wondering about the longevity, and not just the longevity, but the wellness component of tennis versus running in that capacity. And if anybody knows that, please send me a link in
Yes.
the
Well,
comments below.
you know, look at south of France or Italy where they play bocce balls. You have old people, and
Mhm.
it's proven. There are some studies, and I wrote a blog on pickleball recently. It's on our website, and I looked at the study about you know aging well when you can interact with people. So if you go and run on your own, I think running it's like walking. It's great. But if you are part of a group where you meet other people and can interact and become friends, and after playing tennis and pickleball, you go for a beer and you ask questions, it has additional benefits than just the activity. I think it's very complementary. And if you look at the blog I wrote, there are a few researches that were made and published around this topic. So yes, and I think it's as beneficial to play bocce ball as to play pickleball. Maybe you don't sweat as much, might be better on your knees, but you need a combination. So if you can walk at the same time as you play bocce ball, but having friends is very important. And we live in a society where old people are left alone. You just you're mentioning how it was in the early days. Well, grandma would still live with their grandkids. They would take care of the kids, and there was a social aspect, and that was the living books that you mentioned at the very beginning of our talk. That doesn't happen anymore. People just leave, and we leave our elderly by themselves. We don't take advantage of what they have to pass to us. We go on TikTok and learn everything from TikTok instead of talking to our parents. It's bad in a way, but I mean, can we fight technology? I don't know about that. But what I know is sports where you can meet other people and become friends and talk is certainly better than just being on by yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Victor. I mentioned a psychologist in the beginning, and one thing that I wanted to add to that piece is my budget cannot do everything. I can't do for myself psychologist, life coach, tennis coach, coach, chiropractor, massage therapist, everything. I can't do everything. German classes. I'm studying German. I just can't. You can't do everything. But my tennis coach that I've had here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, we send each other uh, emails and WhatsApps. We send each other videos. He's reading my book called The Aging Athlete right now because he's 10 years younger than I am. And I'm up to 1,875 athletes since 2009 interviewed, and it could be a world record. And I'm not trying to be a world record. It's just I've been at this thing so long and it's such a passion of mine. I'm trying to learn about why high performance athletes from high school, college, and the pros, and dancers and general contractors called athletes, why these people stop moving on a regular basis and then go on a downhill slide with motivation, with mindset, with their own attitude, uh, often getting into substances because you tend to replace the high and the endorphins and the camaraderie that you had in athletics with something. It has to be replaced by something. Jimmy Connors, whom I mentioned before, got into gambling after he was done with tennis and he was losing money, I think millions. And his wife said, look, she was a nice person, Patty Connors still is. She said, look, honey, you can't keep doing this. You're wrecking us and we can't keep doing this. And I think he says this in his book. And so he had to change. He's been very open about that. I mean, it's an addiction lifestyle, being on the tennis tour to a certain degree and fighting for your life all the time and doing all the practices and travel. And he didn't know what to do after that to replace it, right? So my tennis coach, for my budget, I can get camaraderie, I can get tennis, I can get laughter, I can get support, and I can get some quick pointers about life. And we both share that with each other. I'm a coach, he's a coach. We both share that. And I'm 10 years older and I'm sharing things that I see in his game and his life. I'm more of a physical trainer and a balanced diet guy. I take siesta. So he's kind of tapping into the little things that I give him, and maybe it will help him now and when he gets to my age. And I think that's very important. So tell us about